tell me why you guys decided, in the wake of the John Crawford shooting, all the events that have gone on, why you guys are here at the Beavercreek Police Station, occupying the police station, and what's the purpose behind this? And
cool. So we've been following the case ever since the beginning. When we first found out that John was killed, we have members that are part of the Ohio Student Association that attend Rice State University, which is right around the corner from the Wal-Mart where he was killed. We also have members who are from Beavercreek. And so this was an issue that was close to home for a lot of us, and we felt a responsibility to respond to what happened here. And with that being said, we organized many things throughout the month of August and September leading up to this point right now. We held a vigil in August. Also, we delivered a letter to this police department demanding that they release the tape, the surveillance tape from the Wal-Mart where he was killed, so that the public and the family could see what happened in there, because at the time it was not available to the public. We also organized an 11.6-mile pilgrimage from that Wal-Mart where he was killed to the Greene County courthouse where they had the grand jury about a week or two ago. And we were there at the press conference when they released the verdict not to indict Officer Sean Williams. And immediately after that, we got to work planning on what our next steps would be. And we figured that it was at that point a time for us as an organization to escalate, to put more pressure on who had the power to deliver the things that we wanted, which was for Officer Sean Williams to be fired and or at least put on desk duty and have his gun be removed, and for the 911 caller to be charged with something, to be brought up on charges of something that could...
Making a false report or inducing panic
whatever,
to a false report?
Whatever the legal charges it is for whatever he did, we would like for him to be brought up on those things. And then also an overhauling of the training materials, which is what Officer Sean Williams received, that is basically being used to justify what happened on August 5th at the Wal-Mart. And so, we decided that we wanted to have a meeting with the chief of police, which is scheduled for this Wednesday at 1 p.m. And we said that we were going to stay here until that meeting actually happens. And depending on how the meeting goes, which we hope it goes well, will determine how long, therefore, after we end up staying here.
Now, I've read a lot of social media reaction, good and bad. And some of the bad I've heard people say things like, why are you driving this into the ground? It's over. Get over it. Mm-hmm. How can you respond to those kind of? And I'm sure you've heard the same thing too.
Right. Well, it's not over. Police brutality and the criminalization of black bodies is something that we have to deal with every single day, and we know that this issue is bigger than John Crawford, is bigger than Beavercreek, Ohio, and we are planning on bringing that to a larger scale on the 18th in Columbus, Ohio, at the 18th of this month, October, to really talk about criminalization of black bodies and police brutality in our communities, and how can we start the conversation about fundamentally shifting the power dynamics and the relationships between law enforcement and community. And so and really that's our response, is that, this is not us beating a dead horse, because this is something that is very serious and is very real to us. And we know that it's a systemic problem within the criminal justice system and with our society in general. Is, just racial profiling and criminalizing young black people just based off of how we look.
Yeah, and the over attention of police enforcement on
Absolutely.
Communities of color and communities of poverty as well.
Yeah.
Have you guys gotten any response? How have people been coming through here? have they just kind of like the last guy did, just kind of walk through, or have anybody engaged you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we've had mixed responses. We are usually the first to engage people who are walking into the door, whether we know them or not, because we are taking up the space and we want them to know that, we aren't here to attack individual people. We're here to, get questions answered and to get the things that we want. And, that's neither here nor there for the people walking in and out. We've gotten some good responses from people. We've got some cold shoulders, but that's not going to stop us from doing what we need to do.
What's the ultimate? What would be the end game where you say we're satisfied with what has come out of this tragedy?
I think for right now, seeing Officer Williams be fired, or have his gun removed and be put on desk duty from here on out would satisfy us. Also, like I said, bringing the 911 caller Ronald Ritchie up on criminal charges for falsely accusing John and resulting in 2 lives being lost in one day. And then also, again, talking about overhauling the training materials that has been issued by the state for the officers to use in what they called an active shooting scenario.
There was no active shooting going on in a scenario that I'm aware of, though, if I'm correct.
Yep.
How do you think this ties into, and I've seen the connection myself, to be fair, before I ask this question, this over-policing, isn't it also tied in really tightly with the war on drugs and the massive, most people when you tell them, like, we're the champion of imprisoning people of all time in the history of the world. And a lot of people are just like, what? Why do you hate America? Why do you hate the police?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's just the numbers. I can't argue with those.
Right.
Do you think this kind of almost visceral, fearful reaction that what I saw on the tape, at least, is tied into this systemic? I always say, when the Civil Rights Act of '68 was passed, it wasn't very long till they started to ramp up the war on drugs.
Right.
And it's like, well, we figured another way out to enable Jim Crow to happen in our society without putting signs on water fountains or doing it, blatantly. Is this all tied in, do you think? Or am I wrong?
I absolutely see a connection there. I think, again, with criminalizing young black people based off of our skin color, based off of how we dress, how we may present ourselves in public that may not align with, what the dominant narrative is or what the dominant culture sees as presentable. And just the stereotypes of what young black people have been associated with for the past 30 years, which is just crime and, drug use, drug selling, and all those things. So I definitely think that there is a connection. And again, like these systemic things that we're talking about, these systems uphold each other. So the system of, white supremacy, the system of criminalizing people for the way that they look, they all uphold each other. To keep moving forward. And so I definitely think that there's a connection in what you were talking about.
What's the biggest, is there anything you didn't know before coming into this situation with John Crawford that's really surprised you?
I think seeing the surveillance tapes aligned with the 911 dispatch call really surprised me because I hadn't heard the 911 call until that morning that they released the tape. And of course I hadn't seen the tape up until then, which had been like a month and a few weeks after he was actually killed. And so that really surprised me the most, seeing those things lined up, because you can see clearly where the 911 caller was falsely accusing John of doing things that resulted in, like I said, his death and also the death of another person who was in the store at the time. And so that really, really surprised me, the way that, he made of things that cost him his life, the way that the officer responded to once he arrived on the scene, and how he responded to John, which is just by shooting first and not asking any questions, and the way that it has been justified by our justice system statewide has been a surprise to me as well.
How can other people support you in the local area, whether they be in the Dayton area, or if they're in Ohio or America or even abroad?
So there's a few ways that we're looking for support from folks. The main one is to come here and join us as we confront power in a direct way. We are occupying a police station, and so that's pretty confrontational, and taking that pressure of accountability right to the source. Yeah, we are also asking folks to call into the Beavercreek Police Department to file a complaint against Officer Sean Williams and the 911 caller, Ronald Ritchie. And we have a sample email on our website at www.ohiostudentassociation.org/John Crawford, and you can see the solidarity link that leads you to that email. And then, folks who have done those things, we also need supplies, food. We don't have any internet. We still need to get work done and get the word out there. So, like hot spots, battery outlet things, because we don't have any electricity either.
Okay. Well, it brings me how long do you guys plan on being here?
Well, like I said, we're going to be here until tomorrow. We have that meeting, and depending on how that meeting goes, determines on how long we're going to stay after, but we're probably going to be here longer than tomorrow.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
We appreciate the support that we've gotten thus far, and we hope that we are doing John and his family justice in the work that we're doing.
What brings you out to the Beavercreek Police Department? Obviously the end of the John Crawford, but it's not the end of the John Crawford saga.
Yeah, what brings me out here is to bring awareness and consciousness to the conditions of our people. When I talk people, I mean African people, black people in the United States, in particular here in Dayton. We've been organizing around this issue to bring to a national front this troubling thing that happens to us.
And explain to someone who may not understand. I hear a lot, I read a lot of things, negative, just act the way you're supposed to, blah, blah, blah. Explain to someone what life is for someone who is just minding their business in the black community.
There's this thing called respectability politics, where as black people we are often taught to look a certain way, act a certain way, and pretty much to assimilate or adhere to what the popular culture, or in particular, we just say it right here, white people deem us to act. So oftentimes, just the way we go about regular day lives is problematic. So what it looks like is that you're constantly being told that, the way you dress, the backwards hat, the pants sag, and even to the point where you listen to music is not the norm. However, within our culture and our upbringing, it is the norm. So there's always this question of like, am I okay being a human being, in this society that doesn't allow us to express ourselves in a certain way. And even it can be confused about why we do it, but that's what it is. And oftentimes you have people who look just like myself who are the first culprits of it, who constantly bang that in your head, like, how you gonna get a job? What are the police gonna say when they see you? And then you have things like this happen to us in Beavercreek, where it's like, well, we literally weren't even doing anything,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's what it looks like. It's constant.
Yeah, we've seen How much do you think the ability to publicize this, the internet has brought about an expanded consciousness to what is going on to people? I mean, because John Crawford obviously was not any danger to anyone. He may have been misperceived as that, but nothing bad would have happened had, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking like how can the internet be a tool?
Do you think that's a big tool, and is it expanding the consciousness? Because I see a lot more. While I do see a lot of ignorant comments and stuff, I do see people who I normally wouldn't have expected saying, this is just wrong.
Right. Yeah, I think honestly, as we look at it and critique the video and critique the experience of what it looks like, you definitely have people you can't, sway towards the other, But what it does is allow the conversation to emerge in dinner tables at your job and really see like this. And some people believe that police officers or law enforcement in particular have this type of moral code, right? And in my experiences, they don't. And in fact, you're oftentimes told to act a certain way around law enforcement. So what the internet does is allow to push that narrative into question, like why is this young man or these black people being killed in such a dramatic fashion, where you have an individual who may be just shopping or maybe just walking down the street and be shot down in a very dramatic fashion, not like, you do something with literally, shot in the Wal-Mart just holding a gun or a BB gun in particular and just swinging it back and forth. Like, what does that look like, And it looks different for us. And the internet can show that. Once the film did come out, people did have a response to it.
How responsible do you think is the media in supplanting the idea that black men are a danger? Because, I've told people before, some of these people who have this fear, it's been planted in them over and over and over. And the only images they see often are negative ones of something scary going down.
Yeah, I mean, it is the media, and oftentimes we get stuck in that narrative, but it's actually a tradition of historical processes that reinforce this thing. So this is stuck into the consciousness of people for hundreds of years, and it just reinforces itself today. And, I know this, what I mean? And like, being at the academy, you learn these things all the time. But how do you show people, like, this is my experience, like I feel this every day, you know what I mean? And you don't have to be, afraid of me. In fact, like even to the point where the police department here, like will say to you, like, well, I'm glad that you came here. I like the way you talk to us and just more nonviolent, narrative. I'm looking at like, what do you expect?
Well, sure, you expect the opposite first. Right, that's like the old, oh, you're so articulate.
Exactly, So it's just interesting even to encounter it. Like, what did you expect from me? You know what I mean? What is in your head to make you have that say directly to me and my comrades? Is like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's interesting when you do this work. It's like you see the human aspect and the human interactions with the power structure, and then like just the people. They see you as another or a subject. You know what I mean? Not as a human being that's just trying to have a conversation. So that's what it is. It does play a big role for real.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about this whole situation?
Yeah, I'm glad that people are coming through, and I'm glad for you to be here, and thank you for supporting our work.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for your time.
No problem, brother. Thank you.
You're part of the Ohio Students Association.
Yes.
You guys are protesting the outcome of the John Crawford killing at the Wal-Mart.
Yes, sir.
Just tell me, what brought you to to the point like, hey, I want to come out here and occupy this police station?
Throughout my time in my life, I've seen police brutality, starting out with the Rodney King beatings in the early 90s, growing up seeing that on the news with the Watts riots, and then in 2001 in Cincinnati with the riots, and then what sparked me to get active after the shooting of Trayvon Martin, and without George Zimmerman being arrested, at that point is when I really got active, and I was like, man, I need to do something. I need to stop being a bystander and figure out how to get involved. And just been working with the House Student Association over the past couple of years, doing voter registration work and political education throughout the community. And then this happens, so we all met up and we were just like, we have to do something. We can't just stand by and not uphold the police to do their duties. Police are civil servants. They have their first duty is to protect and serve. And as the narrative is played out throughout the summer, we've been seeing police do nothing but brutalize and kill the people. And as a community and as a nation, we need to uphold them to their professionalism to do their jobs.
What would you tell people who, I hear a lot like, just listen to the police and you'll be fine? How would you respond to someone like that?
Everyone has different opinions. If you're doing wrong, you shouldn't be doing wrong. But you definitely don't have to have your constitutional rights violated just to conform to the police. You should never lose your rights in dealing with the police, and that's what we're seeing in a lot of these situational occurrences that we see. And when we run into the police, we just constantly are having our rights violated. With the illegal search and seizures, them pressuring people to tell them things, and I can't agree with that.
Yeah, and there's been some stats come out lately that highlighted a lot of what Dr. Michelle Alexander's book, New Jim Crow, did, stating once again that drug use is higher in places like Beavercreek than it is in the city of Dayton, but the city of Dayton, people who live there, much disproportionately face the wrath of the law for the situation. And so, what kind of legislation would you like to see, or what would you like to see to help solve this problem? A lot of people maybe don't realize it's a problem. Maybe it's a bubble situation that they live in, but the data bear out that people of color and people of poverty especially are targeted for, just targeted. I've experienced it with my wife's black. Her parents live in a pretty swanky neighborhood. She's always getting stopped going to see her parents.
Yeah. What I believe we need is a demilitarization of the police. The police are using extreme forces, and then they're training. It tells them to profile us. This is a systematic issue. This has nothing to do with one man. These cops are just doing exactly what they're trained to do. What we need to do is we need to revitalize their systems that teach them how to do their jobs and uphold them to that. And you look on the news, even the social media just puts us out to be these animals that we're not. And there's a lot of things on the other side of the fence that are just, covered up and thrown under the rug, that you hear it not happens until we're having situations like, the heroin epidemic here in Beavercreek and all the things that are going on around the nation involving that are popping up in suburbs. And now it becomes the problem. And with that, police have to have a different kind of understanding. They're going to work with people from all walks of life, from many different countries, many different ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, and they have to respect that and they have to endure that because, that's what they are. They are the endurers of life.
Anything else you'd like to say?